Welcome to Sportsify. I'm your host, Matt Novak. This week, I am joined by my good buddy, Jamison Dufour, normally the third mic.
Second mic, I've moved up. Now I'm second chair.
Hey, it's not due to injury, but
yeah, you would think after this last week, maybe that is the case.
Dude, everybody's getting hurt around the NFL. We're going to start there in just a moment. But yeah, our co-host, Grant Hawker's out tonight, had another obligation. And then our good buddy, Mike, that joins us all the time, is pulling daddy duty tonight, taking care of the baby. So we are here to host the conversation this week. We've got a ton to get to. Some teams are starting to reveal who they are. Genuinely, there's some 2-0s and some 0-2s that, man, we didn't expect to see where they're at. If you're playing Pick'em with us, that this week was a little tougher. There was not for Mike. Mike had a real good week, actually. But it was a little tougher. We had some teams stumble and some teams that we thought would bounce back. Still looking for their first win. So we're going to get to all of it, but we got to start with the story of the week. Joe Burrow, turf toe. 3 months we are going to see this guy rehabbing and hear a whole bunch of stuff about somebody named Jake Browning that used to play football for the University of Washington. Gutted out a win for the Bengals on Sunday. Dude threw 3 picks, but accounted for 3 total touchdowns as well. So it all balanced out.
A Jameis special, almost Jameis-esque.
Yes, except for he ran for one, and Jameis doesn't do that too often.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
fair.
But
no, Jake Browning doing enough to get it done for the Bengals in relief. They won 31-27 over the Jaguars. Tough to watch Joe Burrow, literally arms around a couple staffers, go all the way down the tunnel and start getting treatment immediately for that turf toe, getting the diagnosis and all that. But it is a grade 3, not good. That is a tear. And for those of you guys that have never looked up a turf toe injury, I don't want to get into it right now, but go Google that. It's a sucky injury. You can put no weight on that thing for a while as it's healing, and he's going to require major surgery for that.
Yeah.
So
it's not as goofy as it sounds. It's like a real painful, terrible injury.
Yeah, this actually
from.
ended Patrick Willis's career as linebacker for the Niners, a Hall of Famer. And he could not come back. He kept having a recurring issue where it was tearing again and again. And he could have sat out maybe a season or a season and a half and tried. But also my Niners were terrible back then. So he just said deuces and went into the tech world. But no, it's a really difficult issue. So he's going to be out. What does that mean for the Bengals? There's a lot to look at. But I got to say, I know that a lot of people are like, maybe going to not hear my perspective real clear right away, but I don't know that they're in as big a trouble as we think. So you might go, hey, man, that's the season. No, Joe, it's over. Let me walk you through what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying they don't have some difficult games coming because the NFL, everybody has difficult games coming, but it's not as bad, especially on the back half. So the Bengals coming up this week are taking on the Vikings in Minnesota. We're going to get to some other injuries from that game that make that one pretty palatable, if you will, as far as the Bengals and their contention in it. Then they will be playing the Lions, who have been up and down so far this year. Jared Goff had a great week for the Lions. Amon-Ra was just bringing down touchdowns like that's all he did Sunday. They put 52 up on Chicago. We're not going to get into that game later, so we'll just leave that. But also they had a very disappointing week 1 against a really good Packers team. So Lions been a little up and down. Oh, my bad. I skipped over the Broncos game. They'll be playing at Denver. Denver losing a heartbreaker that we'll get to in just a little bit this last week. They're also 1-1. Then, yes, the Packers. And we all probably feel the same way right now. Packers are passing the eye test. They're terrifying. Yep. You don't want to play them at all. So that's an L. But here it comes, okay? Starting on the 16th of October, they are hosting the Steelers. We got some things to say about that team in particular today. Then they are hosting the Jets. They've got the Bears. They've got the Steelers again. The Patriots, who've looked very up and down and inconsistent so far. Then they do have a difficult run again. Ravens, Bills, stretch. Ravens. Okay,
it's a brutal 3 weeks.
Let's call that 3 losses. Let's call that 3 losses. Packers is absolutely a loss. I would say still right now in this moment, Lions and the Broncos are up in the air. I don't think those teams really defined who they are just yet. Are we going to see more of the Lions team that we just saw? With the Broncos, their defense is supposed to be elite. And so far, it's not so far. So we don't know what they are. But I'm going to say there's 4 losses there. But then to end the season after going and playing the Ravens and the Bills there in 3 weeks straight, they've got the Dolphins, the Cardinals, and the Browns to close it out. Joe should be playing, if you're looking at timelines, against the Dolphins, the Cardinals, and the Browns. Right there for a team that, is currently 2-0. They got 2 victories already. If you add in those last 3 games, and let's just say that's 5, they really just need to go out and be a 500 team between now and the last 3 weeks of the season. If they can be a 500 team under Jake Browning or maybe some other quarterbacks we might bring up later options, a little teaser for a little bit later here, they can genuinely still make the playoffs, but I understand that's probably going to be as a 7 seed. I'm not condemning their season. I'm just not ready to do it. I think there is enough on this team. They've got such a talented skill position set between Chase, Higgins, Brown. They have guys. They just need to be 500. Here's the issue, though. This is why they might not go 500. Joe Burrow taking hits, taking shots. We made jokes about watching him in preseason and just the atrocity that their offensive line is at times. This is the Bengals pass pro ranks since drafting Joe Burrow. Okay, this is pass block win rate per ESPN research. 2020, they ranked 29th. 2021, 30th. 2022, 30th. 2023, 27th. 2024, 32nd. Dead last. And this year, they are at 28th through the first 2 games. It's real simple. We've been preaching this about this team the entire time this podcast has existed. Go find some people to keep these guys upright, and you will win a lot of football games. Stop, for the love of all things, stop going and investing more money in these skill positions. They didn't have to pay T. Higgins what they paid him. They did not.
No,
right
that's
now,
like an embarrassment of riches.
Tackles. 2 offensive tackles would be real good over T. Higgins. You could go sign Juwan Jennings and 2 tackles. Like, that would be excellent for this team right now. That would have been such a good move. But this has been the problem for them. Joe has paid the price. This dude's gone through ACL, MCL. He's broken a hand. We've seen tons of muscle injuries keeping him out a week or 2. This toe injury is related to getting murdered. I understand it's his toe, but it is related to getting murdered behind a weak offensive line. All they got to do is keep this guy upright, and they just can't do it. I'm not saying the season's condemned. They got to bat 500 here, but they do have the rest of the squad if they can get this offensive line together, and Jake Browning or whoever's going to have the helm for the next however many weeks, 3 months until we get to see Joe again, and hopefully his return's expedite. Maybe it's only 10 weeks. But yeah, man, that's brutal.
Yeah, to your point with the schedule, the things that I'm really circling here, obviously the stretch coming up where I think the Vikings, again, we'll get to the Vikings situation at quarterback right now. I think the Vikings is still gettable for them, but that Broncos, Lions, Packers, that could very well be 3 losses. That being said, that stretch in the middle where you do have the Steelers twice, I honestly think that beating the Steelers twice is the key to getting into the playoffs still.
Yep.
Because in all reality, if we're looking at the AFC right now, obviously the AFC North minus the Browns is one that typically is a bloodbath because we have our doubts about the Steelers, but we still understand that their baseline is still, hey, we're going to be at least floating around 500 ideally. Older roster, older team, definitely has some holes in it in a way that I think a lot of us expected, but some people on the internet maybe didn't quite expect. Not sure what they saw there. But I still think it's key, just 1, for the sake of the division, and 2, when you look around here, again, we're looking at the AFC West. That is going to be 3 probably playoff spots coming from there. And with the Colts being the Colts, the Texans having a slow start being 0-2, the Jaguars, like the AFC South now is interesting in a way that it maybe wasn't before. You're going to really have to claw because obviously you're not going to win the AFC North. That's not happening. The Ravens play in your division. So I think one of the main things that I am circling on their schedule is beating the Steelers twice. I think you really have to have that. And then otherwise, again, like if we were to count win-loss, I think the perfect outcome is by the time you get to Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns, and ideally you sweep those games, and I think you should sweep those games, you're probably sitting at about 9-8 there, which again, I think you really have to beat those two and probably have a tiebreaker with the Steelers. If the Steelers are going to be lurking and the Steelers go 8-9, you go 9-8, that's you taking that seventh playoff spot. I think that's what it's going to be. So 10-16 and 11-16 a month apart, Bengals versus Steelers, I think, have to take both of those.
Yeah. Yep, I totally agree. And I know we got a lot of other ones to get to, but it's going to be interesting to see how this situation in particular plays itself out. You never know in the NFL week to week who's going down, what's going to happen. Since we went off the air last week, Brock Purdy, also toe injury. His was pretty mild in terms of what he's dealing with. They're saying a couple weeks. He missed this last week against the Saints. Mac Jones, rough start. I was paying attention at the beginning, watched the rest of the game after church was over. And, man, he came on. Dude, if you look at like his third down stats, dude just went in and balled out. Got the win for the 49ers, so a lesser injury there. Maybe I'll be really nice and just say it. He went 7 for 12 on his third downs, 120 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. All 3 of his touchdowns were on third down. Finished with a 132 passer rating on third downs. He looked real good. I did not expect to see as much life in him as it did, but he also connected with Juwan on a nice crosser that really put the 49ers ahead for good in that game. But Brock's out probably again this week. Jaden Daniels came out of Thursday night as a concern with a knee sprain, looking at possibly missing this next week against the Raiders. I know Raiders fans would be real excited to hear that. Not that he's hurt, but that he's not playing. We're not pro-injury here, but bummer in that game, though. Veteran Austin Eckler, Achilles season. I hate to declare this over a guy, but probably a career. He's already on the downside of 30. Really playing if we're being honest, it's one of those things where they start the veteran, but we know that there's a rookie taking that spot right now. That's been pretty obvious. And right now is going to get thrust into it as well. But this team had already traded away Brian Robinson. And so when you think about what that means for them, they're now handing the keys, if you will, to their backfield to a rookie. Not the greatest situation that they wanted to be in. I know you can't predict these injuries, but that's a bummer. And when I say probably a career, man, that does my heart no good. I wish no ills on Eckler. That's absolutely rough. But we know that a lot of guys even in the NFL, as good as all the trainers are and recoup is, man, these guys don't come back at more than 80-85% from an Achilles.
Yeah, the Achilles is my least favorite injury probably in all of sports, just across the board.
Football,
basketball,
worse than football
especially.
than basketball.
Yeah.
It's worse because in basketball, at least you can be a spot-up shooter. Like, your role can be slightly more limited, but you can put in real productive work, and you just have to take your, hey, I need a day off here, and take the veteran days. You cannot really do that in football. You got to be 110 all the time. And it's that pivot, especially for a running back, dude. This death. If you just can't hit on that foot anymore and change a direction while you're running as fast as you possibly can, that sucks.
And all those false steps, too. Like, every time you're taking a false step now as a running back, especially, you're like, okay, now I'm always thinking about that back step to get going. And that's, it's brutal. And I hate watching it, too. Like, anytime you see the pop in the calf, it's, oh, man, that's just brutal. So, feel for the guy. But, yeah, I think it's over for him.
Yeah, and that's just too bad. Another dude that's had an injury history, speaking of backfield, Aaron Jones comes out for the Vikings, hamstring. They IR'd him, so that's a 4-week hit. Looks real similar to what just happened to George in San Francisco last week. They are going to go ahead and move over. Really, Jordan Mason had been taking equal snaps in terms of, or touches, but Mason's been way more productive on his yards per touch, per carry, per catch, whatever. He's been looking good anyway. I don't think that's a huge hit for the Vikings. Bigger hit, though, J.J. McCarthy got a concussion in a not great outing for the Vikings. Are we
Was
saying
it a
his
concussion?
praises the week before? Yeah. Did I miss it?
I think they're saying ankle sprain, like a high ankle.
Oh, dude, my bad. So I was looking at the injury list. You are 100% right. I was looking at the injury list, and there's another player that came out for the Vikings. I'm seeing it now with a concussion. My bad. Head fine, ankle not, but it's not a high ankle, correct? That's a low ankle sprain.
I'm trying
It's
to,
in 2 weeks.
the Googler's not being, I thought I saw a high ankle sprain, expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks is kind of what I'm seeing here.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
if it's high, I
innocuous
mean,
right ankle roll that was diagnosed as a high ankle sprain that will slide him for
okay,
2 to 4 weeks per
then
chapter.
forget 2 weeks because it's going to be 4.
And realistically for him, with how these past 2 games have gone, it's probably good to say, hey, let's take I know their quarterback situation, backup wise, you're pulling in Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz football time, guys.
Yeah, but I think it's probably good for him to take the maximum of that time off again to maybe just recenter, almost use it as like your Bryce Young. Hey, we're going to bench you and then you're going to get unbenched. I think that'll be good for him. But
yeah, no
yeah,
reason
high
for
ankle
him to
sprain,
not
no great.
come back 100%, which is a bummer though. This dude literally got to play not even 2 full games after coming back from a knee injury, and then he gets an ankle. That sucks.
Yeah.
Some of the Vikings are going to have to monitor, obviously, both those situations, and they'll make their adjustments, but I don't think they're in the worst spot. Similar to the 49ers, you have a good backup. They can come in and win games for you, and we'll see that. We're actually going to do it and pick them today, but I'm not looking forward to Wentz versus Browning this week. That's not my idea of fun football.
No.
Awful one, though, dude. Holy cow. Khalil Mack.
Oh, yeah, I saw that
was
on the.
awful.
I saw like,
Ugh.
where did he get hurt from? What is he grabbing? Then you see the replay and you see how he's diving, and it's like right before it actually happens, you can see where it's going, and you're like, ugh.
Bro, as a guy with a few more years on him than you, that looks so horrible. Like my elbow just started hurting thinking about it. If you haven't seen the YouTube, don't. It's gross. If you're into that weird stuff, fine. I understand. My wife would be like, wait, what happened? And then go immediately search it. But it was pretty awful to watch. Happened after he got in a sack in the first quarter against the Raiders, which, by the way, Khalil Mack, 12 and a half sacks against the Raiders since becoming not a Raider. The most sacks against a former team by anybody in NFL history. I saw that one come up the other day. He is just an amazing talent. I hope that it's I say this very lightly, a simple dislocation. And there's no other damage than the dislocation, and you see him back. Hopefully, if it was just that, I heard one doctor say today that it could be a month. He's got to get everything moving the right way and allow all the inflammation to get down and everything like that. But we'll see. He was due for an MRI today. We record on Tuesdays, or have been recording on Tuesdays, and because it was a Monday game, we will not have an injury report here in this episode on him. Other bummer, not a starter on your fantasy football team or anything, but Jaden Reed busted collarbone. That's usually 8, maybe 10 weeks, depending on the break. A lot of you guys will remember Tony Romo had that injury, came back from it pretty quick by all accounts, but similar timeline for those of you of a certain age remembering that injury back in the day. But man, it was kind of rough to see. A lot of teams with backups in. I'm not even mentioning a bunch of offensive linemen that went down. My own team got hit with that. We had some defensive linemen with some major injuries.
We had Akello Witherspoon, one of our better DBs, also broke his collarbone on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, there was injuries all over the place. I know every team is a little bit banged up.
Can I tell you the miracle, though, from my perspective?
Yes, hold on, though. I don't want to forget Highsmith.
Oh, yeah.
And pass rusher, linebacker for the Steelers, also out. That, as of this morning, was undetermined on length as well. So we may do an injury report update. I might tell Grant we need to throw a graphic up this week just so people know how those injuries are going to be impacting, if nothing else, their fantasy teams, if not their favorite teams. But yeah, what was the miracle this week?
Of all of these names here on this injury list, the quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams is somehow miraculously not here, which is, if you would have asked me this 3 weeks ago as we're gearing up for our the predictions for the regular season, what are we looking at? Like, the optimist in me is, okay, everybody will stay healthy. That's me having my fingers crossed. And then the reality, based on some of the reporting we were getting, is, oh, we play the Houston Texans defense in week 1, and then a pretty decent
That's a
Titans
real
front.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the Titans front is decent. It's not
You
nothing.
didn't they? It surprised you.
They're a pretty great front, and all things considered, he's stayed upright and has not had that like weird, oh, he got crushed out of nowhere and it's Matthew Stafford limping off the field or got folded. So I'm like, you know what?
Sure.
We'll take that for now. Knock on wood, obviously.
Let's
but
go.
That was not something I was expecting as far as injury conversations are concerned.
I'm not speaking of premonition here, but you did bring this up right before Eagles week. I just want to remind you, if we have to come on here next week and you're like, oh, why did I say it? Yeah, it is Eagles week, so there's always that chance. Definitely one of the better defenses in the league showed up this last week, which we're going to hit right now. But I agree, if you were going to bet on one quarterback in the NFC West being out, probably wasn't Brock Purdy.
It wasn't Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy.
Purdy? Hey,
I tried to say Brock Purdy's toe, and it came out as Brock Turdy. So
that's fine.
I'm going to stash that nickname away, though, for future references.
Sure. Yeah, 5-year-olds everywhere will be excited for that. Big games this week. We'll get right to it. The Chiefs, my guy, are 0-2. The Eagles got out the win with some solid defense. Genuinely got to give it to the defense there because Eagles offense has been pretty pedestrian. It really is. Some choice words getting thrown around at the end of that game. These teams clearly still thinking about the Super Bowl. Chris Jones is known to talk a lot of trash. There was a conversation that got caught between him and Jalen at the end of the game where Chris is basically telling him he's trash because Jalen barely hit 100 yards passing in this game.
101.
Yep. And Chris pointed that out in his comment to Jalen Hurts. And with some wording, Jalen Hurts told him scoreboard, essentially, there at the end. I'm not direct quoting him on this podcast or probably in life. But yeah, man, Eagles have figured something out there. I know the Chiefs are hurting. Don't get me wrong, guys. Like, I get it. We're not trying to run past the fact that their receiving core is decimated, both by injury and Rashee Rice making some poor decisions, getting himself suspended. This is a team that's having to basically just figure out how to put up something competitive. And the Eagles took advantage of that, for sure. Also, that tush-push conversation is getting
the tush-push conversation. Harrison Butker misses another field goal. Travis Kelce hands the ball to the defense, which, by the way, was that their rookie Simmons or whoever their offensive lineman is that chased down whoever was on that interception?
You might be right on that.
That was, I'm going to be butchering the names there, but on that interception play where Kelce bobbled it up and it got picked, it was that lineman full sprinting, catches him up on the sideline.
50 pounds of awesome.
And it was like, okay, that's why these offensive linemen are like some of the best athletes on the planet, because they're big and fast and huge and scary. Yep. But yeah, just one of those games where last year the Chiefs were 15-2, and those things just tended to swing their way. And I think that was one of the reasons why, at least for me this year, it's not that you can always rely on that, but there is almost a level of consistency to see that, like, in these close games, this team just had what it takes to win those close games. And when you play a lot of close games and you're in so many games, you have more opportunities to win games. So I guess you're 0-2, you lose 2 close games to 2 really good teams with really good defenses, and teams that also just, you know, whether or not their offenses look like they're on fire, have more offensive weapons than you do right now. I think you still feel okay that you are in these games. The coin flip's just not going your way and you're hoping to reload. And that post week 6, when you get back Rashee Rice, and we'll see if Worthy can come back, and hopefully they are smart enough to make some trades at some point here or make some move at the deadline, because I think you have to address that run game. There's a lot of things here. But 0-2 for the first time in Mahomes' career.
Yeah, and Patrick can't keep leading this team in rushing yards. That's insane. You've got to figure out how to establish the run. I get that if you try too hard in that respect, if you will, the teams are going to stack the box and yada yada. But I think the onus of this team has been, man, we're gonna have this play action pass game that's going to open up run lanes. Guess what? You don't have that right now. So the adjustments clearly seems like or the adjustment that's needed clearly seems to be, let's run the ball and run the ball, and that will open up passing lanes. Like, the reverse needs to happen for this team. You cannot, I think, you cannot try and identify the way that you have in seasons past with an aging star tight end who cannot block the way that he used to, for sure. And then when you're down your two best receivers and Hollywood Brown, your 1-year contract guy, is your best dude out there, you've got to figure this out. I don't know if they're just waiting for the Dolphins to implode, because we're all thinking the same thing, like the Tyreek reunion, is inevitable and all that. But man, they've just got to make some sort of change. So I know we'll get to that a little bit more, but I do want to mention this. We have been very loud about the fact that in the NFL, everything should be reviewable. There is only a certain amount of types of plays that are reviewable, and there has to be something for atrocities. There just needs to be this special section of, like, flat out, holy cow, we missed that, and that's going to be on the internet tomorrow. And there's no rules here, dude. Like, the NFL, like, there's a lot of rules, but the NFL can come in and do whatever they want. We've said this many times. It's theirs. They can come in and say, hey, there were 4 guys that jumped on the tush push for the Eagles. Like, basically everybody but the center and maybe the quarterback and maybe the tight end behind the quarterback. And literally almost the entire team did it, dude. And you can see it plain as day. Everybody's seen what we've seen. And to not be able to call that is just so bad. It's a horrible look for the NFL. I'm not going to be the guy that says it comes out right now and starts screaming about the tush push needing to be illegal. We're not going to bother with that crud right now. The NFL made its decision. The competitive committee came in and was like, nope, we want it, blah, 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 blah. I disagreed with the decision at the time. I still disagree with that decision. This is a different play. But when guys are flat out lining up off sides, then jumping, false start, and you have to make a correction. This is so bad for your sport. The NFL should be embarrassed of what they allowed to happen on the field this week, because that was absolutely awful. How you didn't see it, I just don't get. I've watched the play in real time, and that's the easiest call to make. It's literally so easy to make. I don't know, man. Maybe there's some IOUs that are getting cashed in by the Eagles right now, and on behalf of maybe every team in the NFL to just hose the Chiefs, who seemingly got every call over the last 4 years. But that joking aside, that was awful, and they should be embarrassed. You got to figure that out.
I do think, and maybe my team will be the beneficiary of this, but I think we might be looking at hey, this is being reviewed this week because of how this game was played and the things that were missed, and it's all over the place. So I'm expecting when that does happen in the Rams-Eagles game, they might have we're going to get you with that one, just to make sure that it's obvious that, hey, we're looking for it now, in the same way where you have your tackles kind of jumping off the line like just a fraction of a second before the ball is actually snapped, and sometimes they get away with it, and then other times it's like, hey, we're going to make sure that this is obvious in this game. We're not going to tolerate this right now. So we might be the beneficiary of that this week, which would be very nice, because as we know, when they run the tush push, this is a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1,
90% hit rate,
4th and goal. And to move back 5 yards completely removes the tush push from the equation. That is a pretty good way, I think, to, like, again, I don't think rugby plays should necessarily be in the NFL. And I also think it's incredibly boring to watch. But if it's going to be here, which it is going to be this year, they were like, two votes short or whatever to remove that from this season. So while it's here, if you actually, I'm still not going to love when it is run correctly, because I think it's just boring and annoying and ugly. But if you call the flag, that's a pretty big penalty for a play that is a 90% success rate to now back a team up that, as we've talked about offensively, isn't really doing much with the ball right now, at least. To turn that into from a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 to a 3rd and 6, 4th and 6, it completely changes things, and it makes at least some sense and brings some balance to what is otherwise just a completely lopsided play in their favor. That's the one thing I'm going to be looking out for. But again, I agree with you. It is one of the most obvious things when you're watching it from TV. I don't know how you're not getting that when you are standing right down the line. I think some of it is also just procedurally lining up over the top of the ball, which is also not legal, by the way. The center's head, you can't be in front of the football. And so I think with the emphasis, we might see some of that actually get flagged this coming week. But I hope that stays consistent, because it is not only an incredibly deflating play when you are on the other side of the ball, it's just watching a rugby scrum in football is also just not fun. And it's not safe. Nope. Whatever. We've talked about that a million times.
A lot of injuries on the tush push, and not necessarily for the offense. It comes the other way. You are taking guys out at the ankles and at best the knees. It doesn't get a lot higher than that. The way
I think there were some, I don't remember exactly who it was or even where I heard it, so I might be misquoting or putting this in the wrong place for somebody.
Let's put it on the internet anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm not a doctor. I say what I want. I think that there was an Eagles offensive lineman who even said that he was not glad that the tush push stayed around because he hates running that play. Because you sit there and you do it 2 times in a row and you get smashed and piled up on 2 times in a row, and you do that tush push maybe 3 times a game. Bring that over the course of a season, you're maybe running the tush push like 30 times a year. That's not fun.
No, it's awful. It's awful. And it's just, we don't believe that it fits what football is. And so for those of you guys who are like, why is this such a big deal? It is a rugby play. It 100% is. It's rugby in the NFL. And I understand that there's elements that cross the lines, if you will, to both sports. There's some similarities and a feel. When you watch those sports back to back, you'd be like, they do that in football and they do that in rugby. And I get some of the comparisons, but it is genuinely taking away a certain part of, I think, the integrity of the line of scrimmage for football. And the Eagles, to their credit, figured it out. They are doing something that is legal when they do it correctly. This one was not. It is legal. It's a loophole. It works, and they are doing it. They are coaching it and executing it better than anybody in the league. And good on them for any time you find something like that in the NFL and you exploit it to your advantage and beat people down with it. There's nothing wrong with gaining the competitive edge. But we just don't think that the play belongs. I didn't mean to get in all that. I actually want to talk about one other thing with the Eagles before we move on. Should they be a little concerned about that offense? Speaking of it, yes. They genuinely should. That is a very pedestrian offense for a team with 2 good and important wins, beating a division rival in week 1 in the Cowboys. That's an important win, close 1-score game. This also being another 1-score game. They are winning football games, which is what the Eagles have been doing for the past several years now. That is a great coaching staff. We don't need to talk about Howie and the front office. We've done that enough. They're brilliant in the way they execute in all phases there. But Jalen Hurts right now has 2 completions of 10-plus air yards in 2 games. That's tied with Tyrod Taylor for 34th in the NFL. Tyrod Taylor came in and played a little bit for the Jets this last week after Justin Fields went out injured. I did not.
Tyrod Taylor has 7 completions on 11 attempts.
So that's not good. If you were just doing the math on what a quarterback does, they throw the football. Jalen Hurts has not chosen to throw the football downfield hardly at all. Completion percentage is not awful, but they're literally just not doing it. They're playing, and this might be a new thing. I paid attention to this a little bit over the weekend, and I think this is really going to be tested throughout the season. The new kickoff rules are creating an incredible advantage for the offense. That starting position of the 35-yard line, field position is now very real. I think that a lot of teams we're going to see this pretty regularly. Good teams are going to play more conservatively than they have in the past. Because as we are watching in Indianapolis, and we'll get to that game in just a minute, but as we're watching there, it is pretty easy. If you can get 25 yards down the field on an average drive, that's normal for a decent offense to average 25 yards per drive. If you can get down there with a good starting position, you are locking in 60-something-ish field goals, yard field goals. So I think offenses are going to start to be more conservative like this, especially the ones that have good kickers, like some stupid team in Dallas. And dear Lord, he looks good.
A monster.
Aubrey is dropping bombs. But I think we're going to see this become regular. It's a thing. Now, that said, because they're winning, we're not overly concerned. But Jalen's not even taking shots. They're not even trying. They have Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown on this team. They have Saquon Barkley to clear out linebackers. I don't understand why they're not at least considering. But that said, they did play 2 tough opponents out of the gate. They got another one this week in your Rams. Be a little interested to see if they won't take a shot or two with, like you just said a minute ago, one of your best cornerbacks being out for a length of time right here. That was just interesting, though, to see them not try. That's weird.
The standout things for me, because I've had this up and down like roller coaster experience with Jalen Hurts over the last several years, because I felt like he was a little underrated prior to that first Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and then goes in that Super Bowl, and really the only mistake he makes is that weird fumble in that first Super Bowl. Otherwise, he was
lights out.
Lights out. And I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I thought I saw in this guy, who is an underrated, like, deep ball guy who is not Lamar by any means, but can get out. He's physical, he's fast, he's strong, and he's got an arm, and he's got weapons, and he's going to air it out, and they're going to do awesome things. I was like, that's awesome. And now it feels like it's completely like 180'd in the other direction. I'm gonna name, actually, I don't even know if I could ask you to name the only other quarterbacks in this football database I'm looking at right now that have 0 passing touchdowns this year. There are 5 of them: Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, Zach Wilson, Tyson Bagent, however you say his name, back up in Chicago, and Jalen Hurts. Those are the 5 quarterbacks that have enough attempts to be on this list. And by the way, some of those quarterbacks have 2 attempts, 8 attempts, 3 attempts. Jalen Hurts has 45 pass attempts this year.
Wow.
He is also, when we're talking about passing yards, which again is the one that confuses me the most given his weapons and the fact that you can throw a bomb downfield, and he's thrown 2 bombs connected on both of them. It's like, why not maybe try this a little bit more here? The only quarterbacks that have fewer passing yards than him aren't starters, except for Joe Burrow, who left early with an injury, and Justin Fields, who also really only played 3 quarters and also only had 27 passing yards in that game on Sunday. And by the way, is still only 8 passing yards behind Jalen Hurts, who's played 2 full games. I understand the rushing perspective, but the rushing yards haven't been out of this world. I think they are averaged like 140 rushing yards a game, which is good. But when you're only averaging like 120 passing yards a game, that's not really the balance you're looking for as far as like offensive output. And again, I understand they're winning games, but Dylan Gabriel has a passing touchdown before Jalen Hurts does this year, and Jalen Hurts is a defending reigning Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. So I would just expect a little bit more out of that, especially when you could have and probably should have beaten up on a Dallas Cowboys defense in week 1. And we thought, oh, maybe that defense isn't what we thought it was. Guess who they played this week? The New York Giants, who hung 37 on them, and Russell Wilson put 450 passing yards on their head. So I think there is a little room for concern.
Yep.
Don't want to overreact to it. But when I watch that team, I both think this is boring and I don't like watching you. And I also think there's something weird going on where, yes, you are a floor-raising quarterback and team when you have that roster and you can convert on tush pushes and you can run the ball well enough and you can just win games. I know that's what's important. But ultimately, when it comes to, I think, winning in the long term, you have to have some of those explosives. You have to be able to move the ball, especially in today's NFL, in a way that I don't think they're doing right now. And I can't tell if they're not capable of doing it or if they're just saying, hey, we're going to take the wins as we can get them, and then we'll do our Eagles thing and ramp up towards the end. I know I'm an Eagles hater, but it's hard for me to not look past my own bias and see some real concerns there.
Couldn't agree more. Obviously, like, they've got to figure some of that stuff out. But again, we will revisit the field position game. We're going to look at some of these teams that are winning games consistently and look at how they're doing it as the season goes on, because I think that is going to become a bigger conversation. You brought them up. I'm going to skip down to it real quick on our rundown. Cowboys won an ugly game, and it was exciting. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely was. 40-37 in overtime. Aubrey comes in and drains 2 over 60 yards for this team absolutely stupid what he's doing out there. By the way, certain other podcasts made mention of this right before the season started. Those kicker balls that they're bringing in, the worked in balls that they're now the NFL's allowing, is going to set some records. So not only do we got teams getting the ball on the 35-yard line, but then they've only got to get to like the 50 for this guy to have a shot. You only got to get 15 yards for him to put 3 points on the board. It's crazy. But legitimately, this Cowboys team winning 40-37, that's exciting. It's fun. Overtime football is always fun. Got towards the end of overtime even, so it was extended football and all that. But the Cowboys defense has now given up 840 yards and 61 points in their first two games against two division opponents in Philly and New York. Just expect this to be bad when they're playing division opponents. Russell Wilson looked like he was throwing the ball to Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett circa 2015 as he put up that stat line you mentioned earlier, the 450, the 3 touchdowns, over 500 yards of offense did they give up to the Giants, who had only managed 6 points the week before. That's ridiculous. The Cowboys were without star corner Darren Bland, who's out with a foot injury. They did already go and sign a Jadeveon Clowney. But dear Lord, does this team look like a defense that's missing its best player. Gee, if only you could have just had this one guy that can do this one thing that would limit opportunities for quarterbacks who are not really mobile. Maybe, just maybe, you could knock some of this stuff.
At least they're stopping the run. They're only allowing 121 rushing yards per game.
Yeah. It's going great.
Yeah.
It's going great. But it gets worse right here. The Cowboys play 3 winnable games, yes, in their next 4 against the Bears, Jets, and Panthers. But they have the Packers in 2 weeks with Micah Parsons looking to murder and make a statement against his former team. Then they face the Broncos and Cardinals before their bye. But the really bad part is the second half of the season, where they will have to deal with the following offenses. The Raiders, who I know had a bad night last night, but they were playing, in my opinion, one of the better teams in the league right now, in the Chargers, for sure. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Chargers, the Commanders. 4 of those are road games, and they still have the Vikings and Giants again. And we'll see what the Vikings are, as we talked about earlier, when we get there. But legitimately, this team is going to get cooked. They're going to be horrific. As we go through this season, these numbers are going to continue to repeat themselves for all the reasons we've already listed. You're missing your best defensive player because you can't figure out how to sign people and when you should. We've been over that at length. Genuinely, you're also allowing someone like Matt Eberflus back into the building to come run your defense, who has done nothing but prove that he cannot be trusted in leadership positions for any team that wins football games. Like, he literally hasn't won anything. I don't understand how he keeps getting promoted. I get that he's probably a good leader and a great guy, and he's super organized and all that crud. The numbers don't lie. Does not have successful defenses consistently. He's benefited from some good GM moves in the past, but this team is constructed to fail defensively, and they're going to continue failing throughout this season. I'm telling you that genuinely, the Commanders, the Chargers, the Lions, even the lackluster offenses so far, the Eagles and the Chiefs, are going to put up real numbers on this team. They're going to average surrendering 400-plus yards a game. They're going to be a bottom 3 points allowed defense in this league, and they are going to miss the playoffs. I'm not overreacting after 2 weeks. This team sucks. And there's no way that roster, the way it's constructed, improves to the level of making them anything more than a real hopeful 9-8 squad. I genuinely think they're finishing under 500 after watching these first 2 games, and I'm going to be surprised if they get to 9 wins.
Yeah, I think going into the year when we covered that division, talked about how Dallas is probably going to have to do their best Bengals impression, where it's okay, we're going to allow 30 a game, so we have to score 35 a game. And ironically, it was exactly what we saw here.
Yep.
Now, the context of that game being against Russ and the New York Giants after what they did in week 1, I don't even think I expected it to be that bad, where you're going to say, okay, we're going to be in an absolute shootout where we have to have our kicker, which, by the way, I thought it was hilarious that they run a little like inside handoff to get an extra 4 yards to set Aubrey up for the game tying 64-yard field goal attempt. Like, you're so confident in your kicker. It's like, hey, we'll hand the ball off. We'll do a little zone read, and then you just get a few yards and get down. And then we're just going to send this guy out here and kick it.
So crazy.
Would have made it from 70.
Dude, CeeDee Lamb plays on this team. Like, what? Seriously?
Yeah.
We're not even going to just run across and
do a little quick out, get him out of bounds, get at least 5 or 6 yards. But yeah, so the defense is just so terrible. And there was no like reverse engineering that Jerry Jones is going to be able to do to try to make this thing work and sell the narrative of, oh, we need to stop the run. And so we got some guys, and look what we're going to do with these picks. I don't even know if we mentioned this up top, but Deron Bland, who they just signed, also out. So pay that guy after not paying Micah Parsons. And then you also watch the impact that Micah Parsons' pressure has with a team like the Packers, who are ultimately just a better roster. But his impact alone is something where I was like, hey, this is maybe an 8-9 team who is, again, going to be a discount Bengals, to where I agree. Like, now at this point, you're like, this is 6-7 win team. You're trying to squeak out wins versus the Giants, who I think are an improved team from last year, but are still probably going to win 4-5 maybe games this year. And you're letting them put up 37 points on you. And this absolute air raid from, admittedly, the Moonball Master, but it's embarrassing. And you almost feel bad, even though the Dallas Cowboys, but it's like they have these pieces on offense, and then for them to just go the complete opposite way on defense after having one of the guys is just, it's tough. And I know they won, and I know they're feeling good about getting a win, but you don't feel good if that's the way you're getting a win, because again, I agree. I think that's going to be the tail of the tape. You're going to allow 30 points a game. You're going to allow 400 plus yards a game. And you're just asking a lot from guys like Dak Prescott. And again, if we're going to look at what's happening with the Bengals here, Joe Burrow's out for 3 months because he's getting crushed, and the only way that they can win is to try to beat him in a sprint. And this Dallas line offensively is better, obviously, than that Bengals line. But when you have to ask so much of your guys on offense to be in a shootout every week, it can fall off fast. So.
Yeah, and I will back up and look at it from a little bit of a sky-high view. Williams is doing a great job running the ball for the Cowboys. That has been a fantasy surprise, if you will. I did look at him a lot as a later round option. I did not land him on any – no, I got him on one squad. But that has been a surprise. We were really shocked at what happened with CeeDee in week 1 with him with the drops. That's not been normal. So that was, I want to just say, okay, has been some good. Like you said, the offensive line's good. They've been paying people after every game for some reason. They just keep signing someone else to an extension. Began with Bland and then started working through the other guys. But Cowboy fans, buckle up. I know that you're used to this, really, but it's going to be different this time. You are literally going to have to score 35 points a game to be a team that finishes in the positive. I don't know that you can ask that of Dak, like you're saying, Jamison, every single week. That's not the NFL that we watch every Sunday. That's just not going to happen. That's not real. The defensive minds and the coordinator rooms around this league are too good. The players are too good. They will find what you are doing, and they will exploit it. So I expect those losses start racking up for them, as we mentioned with the schedule. I did play this song as soon as I saw what happened to the Steelers this week against the Seahawks. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Steeler fans, I know that we have made an emphasis already on early episodes of saying your team is not good. And it's not that they don't have names. It's not that they don't have some good players, but they're old. Highsmith went out this week. These things are going to become a norm for you. But I was rooting for you this week. I want you to know that. I was rooting for you to win because I hate the Seahawks so much. But I did go and look up this one line of an old emo band called Dashboard Confessional, where the lead singer screams out, "I am vindicated." 100%. I felt so good watching the end result of that game, if you will. Yes, the Seahawks get the win. That sucks as a 49er fan. But I knew I was right. And you're going to keep seeing this happen. we are right. Injuries are going to mount up. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, can make an insane throw. If you saw that cross-body throw out to the right,
He still got the throws, and he
cow.
threw pretty well on the move. I don't want to overstate a 203-yard, 18 for 33 performance.
Can go.
But he still had some zip on there, which we expected.
He's going to give you flash. He's going to give you flash. I like the high ball to DK in the end zone. Like that.
Yeah. They had a couple of those. Just
number four looks good on DK.
It does. It's scary. It is scary. Big guys with little numbers are frightening. I'm not going to lie. And
it's not like the number one for the Florida Gators where the dude was like,
yeah, he's growing out of his pads. Yeah.
But no, it does look good on DK. Gotta say that. That was a good high ball. Again, that crossbody throw rolling out. Holy cow. How are you 41 years old doing that? I am not that much younger than Aaron Rodgers. And last night nearly murdered my ankle jumping over a softball en route to first base because I put all my weight forward on my left ankle. It hurt real bad, but I'm doing fine now. I get that he's going to have those flash moments, but that's what you're going to get. You're going to get flash moments. This team clearly still struggling on some key moments. Special teams made the blunder of all blunders this week. How do you not remember that's what's that?
I think that's the second time that's ever happened.
Yep. How do you not know that's a live ball? How is everyone on that team not running backwards going, oh, no, this is terrible? Ball literally goes off. I'm going to forget who it was that touched it now.
I know. Was that Jalen Warren?
Was it what? No, I thought I saw 2 on that jersey.
Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it
goes up with his hands.
It was a rookie.
I can emulate it. It touches the top of fingers right here. He knows it touched him, but he thinks it's going to go out of the back, apparently. Ball just decides not to. Seahawks come in, jump on it, and score a touchdown on a kickoff. But that was not the definitive play of this game. The definitive play of this game is also on Aaron Rodgers, because while you're going to get amazing stuff like he gave you, he also threw an interception in the end zone when this game was close. And that was the turn of the tide. That really was. Seahawks go and score on next possession. Then later in the game, you get this kickoff that happens, and your team oopses, and all of a sudden you're down by 2 scores. Like, they ran away with it after that. This is just not a complete team. We're going to keep saying it. Injuries are going to mount up. Aaron Rodgers looks real old at times. Looks amazing in moments, but looks real old for long stretches of these games. And the stat line that you already read, that's barely over 50%, dude, on your completion rate. And this offense cannot handle that. I will say the best thing that I think this team has going for it right now, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a fantasy owner. You already said his name, but Jalen Warren, that has been a genuine surprise. I was like, you know what? I'll take him as a flyer. We'll just see. I have to start him this week. Like, he's a real deal. I do like how he's complementing the setup of this offense. So I'm not all negative here. I got some nice things to say every now and then. But Jalen Warren, looking great. But this team is just not. And you beat, as we've been trying to explain over and over again, you beat the Jets by a couple of points. A team that sucks in all phases. Might have the worst quarterback room. No offense to Tyrod Taylor, who we all like a lot. Might have the worst quarterback room in the league. We're about to find out what the Bengals have, because we saw the names they signed today, and that was not good. But genuinely, like, that's scary. Seahawks, though, good on them. Made good of all opportunities. We knew they were a good team. Lost to the 49ers in week 1 at home. Niners got a little bit lucky. Made a great defensive stand at the end of that game. Bosa being Bosa. But genuinely, like, not surprised the Seahawks won this contest at all.
Seahawks defense looking pretty good. I figured, like,
that interior pressure is real.
Yeah, and you still got dudes out wide as well, a secondary, and
a problem.
Yeah, I figured that defense was going to be the unit for them. I think that was probably the most obvious thing, especially
you meant defensive secondary guys out wide. My bad.
Yeah, JSN too. I mean, that JSN right now is cooking. We'll just say that.
Oh yeah, that's a menace out on the field.
Yeah, that defense is going crazy. I did want to say one more thing about Aaron Rodgers that does concern me, which I think there are more concerns than good things right now. It is worth noting the only quarterbacks with more sacks than him right now on the season. Do you want to take a guess that there's 3 quarterbacks who've been sacked more times than Aaron Rodgers this year?
Is it Fields?
Surprisingly, no.
Oh, that's a shock. Okay. Okay, 3. Give me 1 sec. I want to guess. Rattler?
No.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Rattler's only been sacked 4 times this year.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Dang, dude. Who am I missing here?
The names I think will be pretty obvious when you hear them.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one, Cam Ward, unfortunately, just by
Yeah.
he's been sacked 11 times already.
Listen, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the Titans this year. That's just
Yeah.
not going to happen. Though. Yeah.
Feel bad for the kid. He had a nasty throw against my team on Sunday. I'm gonna have to pull that up for you when we're done here because it was a Mahomesy throw, and I know you don't ever want to throw that name into too many conversations, but legitimately rolling out right from pressure on the sideline, throws it all
Oh,
the way across the field to the left side of the end zone for a touchdown.
no, I saw the sideline view of that play.
Yeah,
That's wild.
disgusting. I was like pulling my hair out watching that. But he's been sacked 11 times. JJ McCarthy has been sacked 9 times, and Tua Turndabalova has been sacked 8 times.
Yeah, there you go.
He's been sacked 7 times. Aaron Rodgers, not good when you're 41 and also coming off of a recent Achilles tear.
Yeah.
So something for us to keep an eye on as well, because again, when you're that old, I don't care if you still got some zip on the ball. For somebody who likes to roll out, you are probably going to feel the pressure of some of those edge rushers more often than maybe sticking in the pocket. And he loves to get out there and run, and he loves to get out there and spin it. You can't be getting sacked 3.5 times a game all season long, or else you're going to be in trouble.
Is he like tied with Drake May? Or
Drake May has been sacked 7 times. Geno Smith has been sacked 7 times, and Jane Daniels has been sacked 7 times.
Oh, wouldn't put Jaden up there. Okay.
I think a lot of that is coming from playing
Scramble.
Green Bay when you did.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But
But
yeah,
also style of play. Like Jaden Daniels literally up
exactly.
and down. If you're trying to go this way, he is just up and down.
Exactly.
But
yeah, that was another thing that I wanted to point out, because again, you're trying to just crawl to the finish line if you're the Steelers and try to be 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs, and you just can't be Aaron Rodgers getting sacked 7 times. And also, don't love their run game right now for what it's worth. They only had 48 rushing yards. I know the Seahawks are a good defense, but you have to turn up the run game a little bit, because Aaron Rodgers, if you're throwing again 18 completions for 200 yards, it's not a good way to win a lot of football games.
And in that second half, they're genuinely trying to come back. Warren not being the problem there. They were down by 2 scores most of the second half. So that's genuinely the reason that total comes up. But yeah, I agree with you, and I would be real curious if I went back and watched that. I watched the condensed version of games, so I watched that half an hour version NFL puts out. By the way, if you have a Peacock subscription, they do a phenomenal job of taking out the unimportant plays. And they'll show you plays from every single drive, and you get a real good mix of the condensed version, but only impact plays for the most part. Yeah, watch that, but I'd be really curious to see how many of those are Rodgers' inability to move. When I do watch that version of the game, and I've seen several of those sacks watching those condensed games, he, outside of the play I mentioned, he is exactly what we think he is. He's 41 years old inside a collapsing pocket.
Yeah, I do want to give him praise on one thing, which is his favorite thing to do, and it is the play action boot. I don't know if you saw that one he had where he completely fooled. I can't remember the defender's name, but hits him with the fake handoff and holds the ball at his waist like he does, and does his little follow through, and then zips around, and the guy's just completely lost, and he zips it off for a little gain. I was just like, okay, that's classic Rodgers. But again,
him and Peyton Manning with the extended hand, forget it, dude. You have no idea. That's a magician's trick right there.
We all know that one play action boot rushing touchdown for Peyton that comes to mind, where he runs as slowly as possible into the end zone and the camera doesn't even follow him.
Out to the left. To the left. Bro is almost standing in the end zone on a slow trot. Is that Bronco ball? I think it's Broncos.
That might have been Broncos,
late in his career.
or it was late era Colts. I can't remember at this point, but anyways.
Yes. I want to go get to some positive. We've been in the negative a little bit. We're feeling vindicated by some of our early takes. I do want to get some teams that look phenomenal and some stuff that I think we're definitely cheering for. We are not Packers fans, and none of us are. But as Mike would say, and we mentioned a little bit earlier, this team is everything. They have passed all the eye tests. They look phenomenal. I've been a little surprised that Josh Jacobs hasn't put up a little bit more. Again, fantasy owner, a little sad. But overall, man, defense is humming. Jordan Love is doing exactly what he needs to. If your team has this team on the schedule and you were thinking, man, I was really trying to get away with my wife this one weekend here in the fall, but I don't want to miss football. Whatever weekend they're playing the Packers, just go watch the waves hit the beach, man. Just take the day, maybe leave your phone in the room for 4 or 5 hours. Plan on doing something super fun later after the game's over, because the Packers are going to destroy your team. There's a real good chance of that. That is terrifying. I don't want I don't want the 49ers to play them in the playoffs, and that's saying something because my 49ers, the Packers in the playoffs. I don't want to see this squad, period, dude. They look real good, and good for them, man. If this ends up being their year, they made the move of all moves. And if you sacrifice a couple ones and a defensive tackle that nobody really outside of Green Bay knew existed to go get Micah Parsons and a Super Bowl, good for you, dude. You did the right thing 100%. If they even get close, man, like this team looks like it's just taking on its next phase. It's transforming into what it needed to be.
I think the thing that is scariest to me, and especially if you are teams like the Eagles, for example, who we've talked about how their offense is looking and how their ability to run the football the way that they do helps raise their floor. One of the most like eye-popping stats for me when I look at Green Bay and their defense in particular is they've played the Lions and the Commanders, two teams that you would think on the ground might have a pretty good advantage, especially with the Lions, maybe a little less so with the Commanders, except for Jane Daniels and his ability to get out there and make stuff happen.
You got a rookie that's balling out, and you got Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and they have in both games so far, total, the Green Bay Packers have allowed 97 rushing yards, 48.5 a game against two teams that I would have thought, hey, these from a rushing attack perspective, you got the two-headed monster in the backfield in Detroit, and then you've got the dual threat in Washington. The only team that's allowed fewer rush yards than that, which they're still just so disgusting for how bad of a team they are, is Cleveland. Like Cleveland's only allowed 91 rushing yards and has only allowed 146 passing yards a game. And so under 200 yards a game, that's the only defense that's doing that. Aside from them, Green Bay only allowed 238 yards a game. And the rushing stuff, again, just like boggles my mind. And the irony of Micah Parsons not being a run stopper, that's not lost on me in this conversation either. I know it's not all him, but it's his ability and his availability and his presence that like allows for those things to happen, and other people get to eat because of that. And I think the defense allowing 15.5 points a game, again, against both of those teams who we would say their strongest things are their offenses, is like, okay, we knew they were going to be good, but this is like I know it's early, but it is like probably the quickest reality check that I've gotten this season of, like we knew the Packers were going to be good, even following both previously and following the Micah Parsons deal, but I didn't expect this, and we'll see if it holds. But again, like defense travels, you have a dude at the position on defense, and then you got an offense who's just capitalizing on the fact that nobody can do anything against them, and they're scary, and it's great to watch, and it's horrifying to watch knowing that like both of us, we have teams that are looking to be in the playoffs, and the best we can hope for is maybe we don't play them in the wild card round and they steal that number one spot, and we can hopefully have somebody else deal with them.
Yes, and because legitimately, like, if you were a Lions fan after week one, you're like, oh no, we suck again, right? Mm-hmm. And your team scored 13 points against the Packers, and a little bit of that was garbage, okay?
Yep.
But then the next week, you come back and score 52, and you're like,
52.
And I understand it's against the Bears, but like you scored 52. That's a 39-point swing in 1 week. That has a lot more to do with the Packers than it does with you. Just pointing that out right now. They are this, everybody else is down here. And that's the way it looks after 2 weeks. That was pretty fun. Another team that cannot stop scoring points, and it is right now the surprise of the NFL. Got a little bit lucky. The Colts.
Yep.
2-0 with Indiana Jones. Best nickname.
My favorite nickname. Yep.
The best. Like, Danny Dimes was fun and everything, but he has revitalized himself, left those New York football giants in the past, and man, that's fun football. Like, that is so much fun to see a team that has sucked just revitalize and going out and doing the thing, dude. This is cool. And they're not doing it, like, he does not have to be everything. And people were like, we sat there and said it, okay? We 100% have. If you can't win with Saquon Barkley, They're handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, and they're doing just fine. Jonathan Taylor sitting right over a 4 average, getting the carries. He's eating. It looks real fun over there. It
He
looks
might
real
be.
fun.
This might be like some of the best, Jonathan. I know it's a small sample size this season, but this is like some of the best he's played in a long time. And if he
He
can hold
cannot
this
get
up,
hurt.
will be his
Cannot get hurt.
best. Yes, knock on wood, knock on wood. But I think he, again, I'm gonna forget the number exactly, but he had like a nearly 22-mile-an-hour run this week,
Yep.
which is like the
fastest run of the week.
fastest. Yeah, and also I think the fastest one recorded in the last like several years.
I thought, did it beat the Raheem Mostert one?
I think it did, or at least it was the fastest since then, or it's like
Okay.
comparable. Because
Yeah.
I was listening to something and they brought up that Mostert run, so I think it maybe even like barely eclipsed that. But he is playing at another level right now,
Looks
and I
great.
think this is, in a way, I don't blame us or anybody else for doubting the then Danny Dimes, but now this is Indiana Jones, and I think we also maybe didn't give enough credit to what a Steichen offense can look like with somebody who can at least be an adult at quarterback. He might not have all of the tools at his disposal all the time, and we've seen maybe more Shaq than a fool Danny Dimes moments than we have the other top 10 kind of plays, but he's running the offense well, and I think it's finally time for Steichen to be like, hey guys, remember me? I was like that offensive play caller in Philly that everybody was talking about when Philly was, again, talking about Jalen Hurts earlier. Like, that was the version of Jalen Hurts that I think about and be like, why can't we have that guy back again if you're Philly? And we're seeing a revitalization of both Shane Steichen's offense and of Indiana Jones all at the same time. And it has for sure been the biggest shock. There are two teams right now averaging more than 400 yards a game. One of them is the Buffalo Bills, who have 450 yards a game, and 4.5 yards behind them is the Indianapolis Colts, who are averaging 445.5 yards a game. Averaging 31 points a game, 161 yards rushing a game, 284 yards passing a game. What? I would have never seen this coming. A lot of us, and I think a lot of people in general, kind of had them as, is this the sneaky worst like team in the league right now? Like, obviously there's a lot of things scraping the bottom of the barrel, but the Colts were definitely favorited in that conversation. And to be here 2-0, yeah, sure. I don't know if you want to talk about the leverage penalty at all at the end of that game that kind of ultimately changed the outcome of that game, because I don't want to look at, hey, we're 2-0, this is so great, versus being, wow, you're 1-1, okay, what is this? But the offensive numbers themselves, they still speak for themselves, whether or not that field goal goes in for Denver or misses and Denver wins, or goes in and the Colts win. Like, those offensive numbers are still the same. But to be 2-0 and to be where they're at right now is completely shocking.
It genuinely is. I think it's absolutely hilarious, though. I'm going to say something that I know you don't know right now. There's a stat that missed right now.
Can I guess it?
Sure, if you want to.
Because I think maybe I don't have the exact same one, but I had one too. They're the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt in their first 2 games in the season.
I feel like that one's been said a lot. I've been holding on to this until this point in the conversation. Daniel Jones leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns.
Oh, that's a good one.
He has 3. Jonathan Taylor has, right now, he's got 3. Jalen Hurts also tied with Daniel Jones for 3. Williams in Dallas, Cook in Buffalo also with 3 apiece. Derrick Henry behind all those guys with 2. He had a not so great week.
He had a rough one.
That's fine. Baltimore's doing just fine. They're good. But no, I just thought that was hilarious. Like, this dude's also leading the league in rushing touchdowns. And it's not that he hasn't been scoring the ground before. Like, that's been a part of his game. 100% it is. He's a big dude. So when they get in close, he'll do some quarterback sneaks, or you'll see him option for sure. But I love that he's having fun playing football in an offense that is truly designed for his skill set. And for his success. I love that, man. I love these comeback stories. I love guys who get pushed down, like they get thrown away, if you will, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, I'm good. I just needed the fit. Mm-hmm. And right now, this is the fit. This is the fit in the NFL that's working. And that's so much fun after 2 weeks. We'll be wrong on this one. We got no issues with that. And no hate on Danny Dimes, now Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And my last kind of shocking stat to piggyback on your rushing touchdown. Yeah, sure. You can say he only has 2 passing touchdowns, but he's completing 71% of his passes, and he has the highest yards per attempt in the league at 9.3. That's more than Herbert. That's more than Love. That's more than Lamar Jackson. That's more than Stafford. Those in order are the ones behind him. So he's completing some of the highest percentage of his passes in the league, the furthest down the field in the league, and also right now is second in passing yards, only behind Russ, who again had a 450-yard day, so it's a little inflated. So he's getting it done at all levels, and he's also only been sacked twice. Again, we'll see if this can hold. You never know, but I think again, maybe we faded Steichen a little too much. Maybe we didn't give him enough credit. Maybe we were fading Daniel Jones a little too much. But they seem to have something going on there. 2-0. It's crazy. That division could be a little tricky now.
It could be totally a little tricky. And one thing that I would say that Danny did not get in New York consistently was weapons outside of Saquon. Did not have consistent weapons. We loved Malik Neighbors last year. That was a revelation for them. He seemed like a no-doubter going, but that was a revelation. He's still playing well, though. His attitude was better this week. That's for sure. But he also got fed this week. That happened there. But no, they did not have a lot of weapons. Tyler Warren, by the way, let's go.
That guy,
14 targets already in 2 weeks as a rookie tight end. He's a possession monster. Absolutely looks as advertised. They got to be so happy with that selection. I like that it's opening some stuff up. Pittman is getting to be a true one in this offense with a great compliment in Tyler Warren, the way that Steichen's lined this up the first couple weeks. Now, not lost on us is that this is 2 weeks, and they got a oopsie handed to them this last week, and just a second opportunity on a missed kick. But it's fun right now. We'll see what happens. But Warren's real great. If you selected him, by the way, in that like 9th round-ish spot that he was dropping to in drafts, you feel real good about that. That's been nice. For sure. But want to get to our last positive here before we talk about a few different things. But, man, last night, I gotta say, Todd Bowles, brilliant. Let him score. Let him score because we've got Baker Mayfield on this team, and we're just going to let him score a touchdown because we believe that Baker Mayfield will put the Buccaneers on his back, quite literally take what we thought might be a season ender for a quick moment in the knee as he was being tackled in open field on the ensuing drive, and does nothing but get the ball across when it matters most. The Buccaneers 2-0 with the Monday Night Football win over the Texans. Loved everything about Todd Bowles making that call and Baker Mayfield doing nothing but exactly what he has done since leaving the Browns. He has proved his worth again and again, despite the roster, despite whatever team scenario he got put in. You talk about guys that you want to root for who really did get cast aside. That guy got tossed. He was literally put out to pasture after his time with Cleveland. And, man, he has done nothing but impress, dude. He's worth all those dollars they're paying him. That was cool. What a good win for them.
And, again, just like as more of a credit to Baker Mayfield, the fact that he's done this with a laundry list of offensive coordinators now, I mean, we've seen how that can affect other good quarterbacks. And a lot of those quarterbacks don't even necessarily have that kind of castaway part of their story arc here, where he was basically thrown away. And if it weren't for maybe that drive when he played for the Rams for a little bit, gets off the plane and leads a game-winning drive for us a couple of years ago when Stafford was out, like that was, like Baker Mayfield. And then he just stumbles into, I don't know if it was after that he ended up going to Carolina. Remember that era? Like that was a weird thing that happened. I think sometimes we forget about that. But to be where he is now, like genuinely, and I understand that Tampa Bay is not necessarily quarterback university when it comes to NFL teams and the histories of their quarterbacks, but with the exception of one Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield is probably going to end up being like the best quarterback that franchise has ever had. Even if we're just looking from a talent perspective, who is he, like Vinny Testaverde?
You got to remember in the way backs, this is a team that drafted and had Steve Young.
Yeah,
in the way backs, but he wasn't good with them.
Steve Young wasn't Steve Young,
He
when he
was a
was
49.
Yeah, exactly. So it is just funny to think about this guy who his biggest strength is basically just like having that dog in him. And again, just the irony of you had this guy in Cleveland and he was the epitome of a Cleveland football player at quarterback who you historically do not do well with. And to watch him be who he is now, like I don't know about you, but watching that in real time, there was no doubt in my mind that once they allowed that touchdown to go through, they were just like, all right, the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I don't have any concerns about that. It's just what he does. And I've just been super impressed. I wasn't super high on him coming out of college because I was like, is this Johnny Manziel 2.0? Like he's got more talent, obviously.
Sure.
But sometimes you just don't know with those guys, and then he's a warrior. And
Yeah,
I love that.
in that era, you will remember when he was still in college, like him changing teams was not a
Mhm.
popular thing. Pre-NIL and portal and all the stuff, like changing teams over the course of your career was not a popular decision. You were looked down upon for sure for doing that. You definitely look down upon when Cleveland takes you to come play quarterback. Yep. You're just, wow, that sucks. You have that now. And everybody has come and tried, but it never works out. No, it is really cool. And what was this? The hilarious thing I saw was Baker Mayfield may win comeback player of the year. And the only thing he ever came back from was the Cleveland Browns.
Playing for the Browns. Yep.
Love that. But no, that was really cool. What a great Monday Night Football game. Sucks to the late game was that Chargers and whatever Geno was trying to do in that game. That was ugly. And the big story of that one was definitely Khalil Mack in that first quarter. Raiders couldn't get anything going. That just did not make a lot of sense. I'm not going to start in the alarm bells. We'll have a lot of time to talk about Ginty, but that offensive line there for the Raiders is real bad. And I know that they're missing the guy, but dude, they're really bad. Like he's
really
2.7 a carry, and he is not bad. Also, don't understand why he's coming off the field, and we're valuing other guys like on those 3rd and 4. Like, why is he coming off? Like
I will say this
away the run option anyway.
Yeah, I did see some very concerning clips of Gentine pass protection, which essentially was the exact opposite of pass protection. It was more of a, hey, I'll be the sliding door for you. Yes, welcome in, sir. Geno Smith is right here. Get acquainted. So I think there may have been some of that in there where in pass pro he was just so bad. But he did have a couple of those. Oh, yeah, that's Ashton Genty just like lowering his shoulder, which for a guy his size is not really much like lowering. It's just running straight and people bounce off of him. So hopefully we can get some more of that. But yeah, what do you have, 11 carries or something like that? Like even in a game like that, you hope to give him a little bit more and take a little bit less off of Geno, who was very clearly struggling all night. But I digress.
Yeah, this game 10-6 in the second quarter, but they could not get anything going in that third quarter, and it was just disappointing one after another. By the way, Quentin Johnson, another 60-yard touchdown in this game. I do not understand. I don't know. How did that guy figure it out between training camp and now? Because you were watching.
Maybe he's like the
the
late bloomer Jamar, where we were like, oh yeah, Jamar in the training camp of the summer couldn't catch a ball, couldn't track a ball, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that was a mistake to say that. I mean, I don't think that's actually going to be the case here, but he's playing well.
Yeah, Raiders, by the way, they kicked 3 field goals last night. One was 54 yards. That's understandable. Whatever. You're going to have some long field goals, but don't like seeing consistently around the 40 and under marker, and they had 2 of those last night. Got to execute when you get down there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was where my play selection was. I was like, hey, it's 3rd and 4. You got to leave Genty out there. Like you got to, because Chip Kelly is zone run. So if we're going to run RPO with a zone block scheme, 3rd and 4 around the 30, 25-yard line, inside the 25-yard, 20-yard, that's magic. That's where he should eat. And I did not understand in the personnel groupings why Genty's walking off when you have that.
Yeah, I can run an RPO where I have Genty, or I can read and see what Brock Bowers is doing.
Like run them both to the same side.
Yeah, that's
the other
thing. Pretty obvious to me. Like
high-low, I don't. Yeah, and then you have Jacoby to take off the top, and Trey Tucker. Those are 2 speedsters. Jacoby, who can obviously really catch the ball in traffic too. That offense should excel there, and that was weak. Carlson should kick between 40 and 55 yards. 100% he should, but under 40, don't like to see that, especially when you
Yeah.
got short yardage opportunity on third down. Didn't like that. But I want to get to two things before we do pick them really quickly. I think we talked a lot about these things, but if you are looking at team records and teams that should be concerned, and we won't go into detail because we've hit some great detail on it, who would you be really worried about? If you're a fan, you should be worried about this team. I already highlighted the Cowboys. Not going to spend
Mm-hmm.
any more time there. You should worry if you're the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys. Should definitely still be worrying if you're a Steelers fan. I understand those are two 1-1 teams, but who else should be really worried right now?
I have a couple for you. And I think to me, when I think worried, I think there's a level of expectation that's attached to it. If you're a
Fair.
Carolina Panthers fan, you're not worried because you're the Panthers and you're 0-2, and that's at this point expected. But the first one that I want to highlight here is the Denver Broncos. I know you're 1-1. You probably shouldn't have won week one versus the Titans when you have 4 Bo Nix turnovers. And I know Bo Nix played much better in a loss, and the loss was a questionable one. I'll give you that. But there were quite a few things with this Denver team that I don't want to say I anticipated these as so I'm like some clairvoyant football watcher and enjoyer, but there was a lot of buzz about the Broncos being that team to take the next step. And yes, I think their defense is fantastic. I do think they've been playing below expectation this year so far. Again, as good as your defense is, like you didn't allow, or you, I guess, didn't stop the Colts and Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, I guess I should say. And maybe this will prove later in the season to be more of a thing that, like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you played a really good team that we thought maybe wasn't that good of a team early on. But still, like, if you're the Denver Broncos and your identity is going to be built upon that defense, you should at least be able to make Daniel Jones punt one time. Like, I think Steichen and Daniel Jones are good, but I don't think they're that good. You know what I mean? If your defense is supposed to be what it is and you get the additions to this defense that you did in the offseason. So that's a concern for me, as well as I'm still just not quite there with Bo Nix. I think there's a level of consistent quarterback play that, especially in the AFC, with the expectations that have been placed upon you to potentially be like, hey, we are making a real push in the AFC West and we're going to make a real push in the playoffs. And some people are picking us to potentially go represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I know that's a long shot pick, but to be sitting here at 1-1, you're by no means out of the race. But when I look at that, there are some very questionable things that just have my antennas up and make me feel, at least right now, a little more justified in me curving the Broncos a little bit. So I don't know if you have any comments on the Broncos, but that's the first one that comes to mind. No red alarm bells, but
Yeah. You're worried.
yeah.
You're worried. I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. With your offseason, you were probably expecting to be 2-0 and have a really good looking 2-0, especially with the teams that you played. So they give me a little pause here, a little cause for concern. The next one I think is maybe one of the more obvious ones, and it's the Houston Texans. I think if you are the Houston Texans, you are very concerned. I think that defense is still absolutely legit, even though you allowed Baker Mayfield to march down the field and take care of business last night. So you don't love that. But that offensive line is just absolutely brutal. And I try to not put too much of this on CJ Stroud because I think we think that CJ Stroud is still a fantastic player. The numbers are certainly not there compared to what we saw in his rookie year. Some of that is tape, some of that is injuries, but I think a lot of that truly is just how poor that offensive line is. And I don't think that they have a way to really patch that up at this point here. So you're just gritting your teeth and hoping that, hey, this Jacksonville Jaguars team who's 1-1, these Indianapolis Colts who are 2-0, we're sitting here at 0-2 with the Tennessee Titans in our division, and we're supposed to be basically waltzing in with a playoff spot because of the AFC South. And here we are, the bottom of the barrel AFC South. And if we look at that division, who they're playing here, you don't have a very favorable schedule throughout the year. So you're playing the AFC West, you're playing the NFC West, you got the Ravens in there. It's just not good. It's just not good. So that is probably my biggest right now, first 2 weeks. Maybe it's an overreaction still, but you are not looking hot, my friends. Houston Texans. I would start ringing those bells.
Yeah. No, and again, the mixing thing's real. You got Chubb playing at 80%, but has had flashes for sure, is at least getting you consistently moving the ball forward. Yeah, that's a little concerning, especially. I feel like I harped pretty good on those that should be worried. Again, labeling Pittsburgh in there for me. If your team's 0-2, you should be worried. And when you look across the NFL at those teams that are, I think that the Chiefs need to be worried. I'm not panicking, but I'm saying you should be worried. You needed to win one of those two. In my opinion, you need to win one of those first two games. Now, I know that they had, for sure, the toughest schedule in the NFL in the first 2 weeks. Okay? Those are two very tough opponents. We knew that the Chargers were going to be good. We talked about how competitive they were going to be in this division. I certainly feel great about the Justin Herbert situation and everything going on there for the most part. That is the top 2, 3 offensive line, all those things. So I knew that was going to be tough for the Chiefs. Obviously, Eagles are going to be tough for the Chiefs. Bad taste in your mouth from the Super Bowl. And they're dealing with all this stuff. But, man, you should be a little worried. Yeah, it's fine. Be a little worried. Don't just sit there and be like, as a fan base, and go, we're the Chiefs. We'll be fine. We have Patrick Mahomes. I get it. Tom Brady had some years where they won games, but you knew they weren't going real far. And this appears to be shaping up after just a couple weeks like something like that. But I want to get to the positive before we do picks. I really, on the positive end, I love what is happening to the NFC West. The best division in football with 7 wins. No other division has more than 4. If you want to just look around the landscape of the NFL, the NFC West as a whole should be feeling real good. And I understand that you can come at me, especially if you want to, about the 49ers dealing with a lot of injuries, still dealing with injuries. Juszczyk is in concussion protocol this week. I knew that we had a better left guard sitting in reserve than the starter. Barch went out. He's going to probably hit IR for us. This guy, Connor Colby, I've been saying it since camp. Man, he looks real good. Not surprised at all that he came in and allowed no pressures and over 20 dropbacks for Mac Jones this last week. The Rams have put together 2 wins already. One good win for sure, and one that was not as important.
Yeah, the Titans.
Yeah, but they're going to get tested this week, so we'll see what they are because they're playing in Philly, the toughest place in the NFL to play. I'll say that again. The toughest place to play in the NFL. So that'll be a tester. Yes, Seattle does have a loss, but that's in division and 1-score game to a team that is all over the top 10 in defensive statistics. Not a big deal. Arizona's won 2 games that they probably should win. But if I am a NFC West fan, I'm feeling great right now. Also, obviously, Indianapolis, we touched on. They should feel great just to be in 2-0. I think if you're a Bengals fan, despite what happened on Sunday, you should feel great about what has happened. You should be terrified about what's going to happen in the next
2-0
weeks.
at what cost?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you should feel good about what happened and hang your hat on that right now because, yeah, you fit in both categories. You should be happy and worried. But no, and then obviously I'll end on, if you're a Green Bay fan, you should feel fantastic. I don't even know why you aren't jumping up and down, looking your friends in the eye and being like, this is our year. You should right now. It's fine. You want to be that annoying guy in the office that sits around whatever the water cooler vibe is in your place and just be like, hey, Packers are looking real good. Going to be eating some cheese there in February. Dude, do it. 100%. This is your time. Because as we would tell you in our season preview, it's the regular season. That's when the Packers should be happy because they're real good at regular season wins. But no, you guys look great. So feel really good right here today in this moment for sure.
Also, the NFC West point, the only division where all 4 teams have a plus point differential.
Yep.
Which is crazy. So go us. I think, by the way, the one thing I do want to say, Arizona Cardinals fans, trust me when I say that you are absolutely fool's gold. I don't hate you, Cardinal. Like, we have no reason to hate the Cardinals, so I don't say that out of hate. But you honestly let the Panthers get back into that game for some reason on Sunday, and I still think that you guys aren't really what it looks like right now. But yeah, NFC West. I didn't even go through and do the math to be like, oh, wow, we really are, compared to some of these other divisions here, 7-1. That's
7-1.
That's actually
7-1, and not one team in this division has allowed more than 35 points total in those 2 games, which means every team is allowing 17.5 or less in this division. Your Rams leading the way on that with just 28 points total.
Yep, 14 a game.
Per game. No, it's looking real good if you're a fan of those. I want to get to our picks for the week. We've got a dumpster fire to start it out, and then a few good ones for sure. Speaking of the NFC West, we're going to hit 3 of those teams in our pick 'em this week. So, first one is the Browning and Wentz Bowl. Bengals and the Vikings. I will go first because I knew this was coming since I picked the games. Genuinely hate this for both teams. So I am going, because both teams are suffering from the quarterback plague this week. So I'm going to go coach and roster. We're taking the Vikings in this one. That's how I feel really good about that, to be honest. So I'm just going
Yeah, I agree with you. At the end of the day, zoom out, that Vikings defense is obviously much better than that Bengals defense. And again, you have the quarterback whisperer, and I'm still not really sure why the man who wears the headset in Cincinnati is still wearing that headset, if I'm being honest with you. So by all accounts, I don't care if you're wheeling out Carson Wentz. I'm going to pick the Vikings here.
And my bad, before we get into the rest of these, last week, Grant went on a few spiritual zags. One hit, one did not.
Steal my flow.
Yep, he went 6 and he is now 6-4 after going 3-2 each of the first 2 weeks. I took, what were your losses there? Oh, you got hosed like I did on the Broncos-Colts game. And then, and then the Chiefs obviously losing. You and I both took those hits. But you are 7-3. Mike is the only one that took the Eagles. I got to give him credit on that. He is 7-3. I am now sitting at 8-2. I took the Packers, Lions, Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers. I don't know why Grant took the Raiders against the Chargers. I don't know what he saw in week 1.
I think he was trying to pull the Geno thing.
Okay.
Claim Geno.
That was a bad call. Anyway, but that's where we're sitting right now. I'm still in my rightful place. Steelers at Pats is week 2. Or, sorry, game 2 in week 3 here. Steelers at Pats. Pats have been very up and down.
Yeah.
Not a lot of consistent play. They're going to give some stuff up. As much as I don't have a lot of nice things to say about the Steelers season, I'm going to give them this game, but it's going to be close. It's a 1-score win, but I just think right now the Steelers are still healthy enough to get this one. Yeah. That Pats roster is not real great. Vrabel's building for the future.
Yeah, I'm going to take Steelers by a hair here as well. If anything, Christian Gonzalez's absence is still pretty tough for the Patriots. And when you really only have one wide receiver that you can trust to throw the ball to, and you don't have the corner that you would be able to put on that guy.
But they have 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
God. Yeah. One of them, though, still blots out the sun. Dear Lord.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
they have a bunch of huge guys over there. But
John Freiermuth and him.
Dear Lord. I just think in a weird way, like that offense works for this matchup right now with where the Patriots are in their young part of the season with a new head coach to them. As I'll be rooting for the Patriots.
Men to that.
Play that match, which is not something I say as a Rams fan very often. But
I would like to be vindicated once more. 100%.
Yeah, if I go 4-1 and it's because of this, so be it. But yeah, I'm gonna lean Steelers here as well. I just think that's where we're at for this point in the season.
Next one is the game we already mentioned. Tough matchup of the week for the NFC West. Rams going out to Philly. Can you do it? Can you say yes to your team in this scenario? As healthy as you are, with Devonta Adams on one side and Puka Nacua on the other, a healthy Kyron Williams ready to run for 125 against a team that can't score points.
And
are
Blake
you picking
Corum,
the Rams?
And Blake Corum came on as running back too. We got the double-headed.
Stole my thunder. Are you picking the Rams?
Yes, I am picking the Rams.
I knew he could do it. I knew he could do it.
Here's the thing. I don't like picking them in Philly, but if there's any time we're going to get the Eagles in the regular season, like at all, it is
when their offense
early in the season. Their offense isn't going. Our offense is going. Matthew Stafford is maybe like playing some of his best early season ball since the Super Bowl run. I'm just going to bank on that for now and probably end up eating those words come next time we are on this podcast, because
we'll play it back for you next week.
Yeah, because I'll probably get pushed into oblivion at some point here.
Hey, your defensive line, if any defensive line in the NFL can handle it, it's the speedy, like built in the middle, but collapses the outside defensive line that the Rams do have.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, we've mentioned it a few times on this show. The Rams at Eagles in the playoffs last year was the closest game that the Eagles played in their entire playoff run. And it was in the snow. And that was when things were clicking a little bit better for them offensively.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with my Rams here, but I understand that this is, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, the hardest place to play probably.
I'm gonna take the Eagles at home. No offense.
Yeah,
just the toughest place to play in the NFL.
Understandable.
And
you guys baited me here by putting my team in the pick'em as per usual.
I 100%. I literally thought I was like, there's no way he can say no to this. His team's 2-0. The Eagles are playing mediocre ball. He has to say yes to the Rams. I don't pick the games every week, but I got to pick them this week, so that's what we did. Cardinals at the Niners. Backup quarterback for San Francisco. This is their first home game. I don't know if you realize both their wins were on the road.
That is true. Yeah, in Seattle.
And the fans showed up, by the way, down in New Orleans. Cam Jordan was ticked about that in his post-game interview. But no, 49er fans are at home this week. Mac Jones is going to get the start pretty much for sure. Wednesday, Thursday determine a lot. Brock's doing fine, they said, but it looks like they're going to probably give him one more week. That Cardinals defense is gettable for sure, and the Niners seem to be healthy enough. If Juice, that concussion might have been concussion light, not taking like any big stance on concussions and stuff, but they are hopeful for him on Sunday. So Niners should be at a pretty good tilt. By the way, this last game for the Niners without Demarcus Robinson. Looking forward to that. But yeah, man.
I miss that guy.
I'm missing him right now, but I won't be after this one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, him and Brock on the field together. But yeah, since it's my team, I'll jump. I am going to take the Niners at home. Mac Jones gave me nothing to pause concern about, and the 49ers defense got better this last week. By the way, having said it, the Saints, I know how you feel, and you're not wrong. They're not great, but that's a tougher out than teams are going to give him credit for.
Kamara's still got the juice.
Kamara looked great, dude. There's a couple effort plays. Bro, when you shake off Bosa, that's different. There are not a lot of guys that are shaking off Bosa. That dude gets a paw on you, and it's lights out. But no, he did look really good, and I got to give it to Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Radler looked poised. Like, he looks very prepared. That sack that ended the game from Huff, there was nothing he could have done. Your right tackle just got beat, dude. That's just it. Bosa had one possession before that you may or may not have seen, but, like, that defensive line was humming. But, man, the Saints were a lot tougher than I thought they'd be, and they scored late in the game to make it close and all that. Like, they really put the pressure on them.
The Saints tape isn't terrible, which I think that's like the difference between, Dennis Allen was our coach last year with a similar roster, and now it's Kellen Moore, who I think is just much more capable, especially offensively speaking. So yeah, they're going to be one of those teams who are not going to be an easy out. You're probably going to have to squeak those ones out, but ultimately, to piggyback off of you here for my pick, I am also going to go Niners here. That Cardinals team, the Cardinals ironically also playing the Saints before that. So you guys both had a Saints matchup. Both of them were maybe a little bit closer than anticipated, but I just don't think the Cardinals have it for this fight here, even with the Niners being as banged up as they are. Like, Chris McCaffrey still has two wheels, so I'm probably going to rely on that team. And I think Shanahan has done a really good job gearing up a guy like Mac Jones, who, by the way, is somebody that he kind of wanted several years ago when he was first drafted before getting his mind changed somewhere along that process. So he had a really good game, all things considered. And I think my only concern with this game, like, obviously I would love for the Niners to win because I do think the Cardinals are bad, and a 3-0 Cardinals team does not scare me in the way that, like, trying to keep pace with a 3-0 Niners team does. If the Cardinals do win, I think there's going to be a lot more people who are like, oh, see, look at the Cardinals. Like, the Rams might lose to the Eagles. The Cardinals are atop the NFC West here. Do we have to be concerned about the Cardinals? And slacks. You beat the Niners when the Niners are what they currently are than the Cardinals are. So yeah, I'm going to lean Niners here, especially at home.
Yeah, no, that should be a difference maker in a lot of people's thought processes, I'm sure, when they're looking at this game and playing pick'em and all that. Our last one is, it feels like these teams need to win this game. Both of them do. The Texans are playing in Clown Town. The Jaguars, coming off of disappointment, the Tex in a game they probably should have won when Joe Burrow went out. I don't know how Trevor Lawrence is losing to Jake Browning, who turned the ball over 3 times in 3.5 quarters, but they did. Jags need this win. Texans might need it worse, and records-wise, they do. Man, I don't feel good about either team right now, but I'm going to do exactly what I did earlier. I'm going to go back to coaching and roster. Texans are built to win this game. Overall, just like we're that a rookie coach there in Jacksonville who's going to have a mediocre season. Still a lot of pieces missing on that roster. So I'm going to take the Texans here because they just need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Texans here as well. I actually, as I was looking at this pick'em before the podcast and during the podcast, knowing where this was coming, I had it in the back of my mind because this is one that I, admittedly, even though we have Rams Eagles here, which is for me as a neutral, it's like, okay, that one's a little bit closer. But Texans at Jags seems like there's not really much going on here. But I think the Texans need this in a way that the Jags also need it, but the Texans need it real bad. You can't be 0-3 here. The one thing that I noticed from Sunday that was plastered all over the place, and I don't know if you saw much of this with Jacksonville, was the Brian Thomas Jr. First of all, he had some alligator arms on a couple of those catches, and
down by the end zone,
by the end zone,
gotta have it.
Crucial drop there. But in a lot of those angles, you do see Trevor throwing some hospital balls into some places, and sure, like it's still his job to go in there and make the contested catch and get walloped. But there is some of that. Part of it is on, hey, we're throwing into these areas here where you're either going to get crushed or there was a skinny post across the middle where the ball got tipped up, and that was one of the interceptions, and he stopped in his route, and it was, okay, he's settling here, but he's being led into 2-3 defenders. And if there's one thing, as a receiver that we don't like, it is knowing that you are going to get crushed across the middle. And if there is a team that is absolutely going to make you pay and crush you at every chance that they're going to get, it's going to be the Texans team. So I think right now the Jags are playing a slightly better football. They haven't played world beaters by any means, but they're playing slightly better football, I think, than Houston right now, at least offensively.
Houston's got to get the offense together.
But
they have to.
But if there's a team that you're going to be able to do it against, I don't feel like you walk into Jacksonville and you're like, all right, guys, we're in Philadelphia or we're in Kansas City. Okay, we're in Jacksonville. They usually wear paper bags around here. I think we can have some composure. Again, coach and quarterback, let's step in here. Let's do it. And I do think there will be a few weeks of offensive concerns now for Jacksonville because of some of those things in the receiving game. You just can't have that. And yeah, they're going to make you pay. So I'm taking Houston.
No, and all that makes sense. I agree. A lot of stuff that we covered today, a lot of teams that are trying to find themselves, need to find their way. Several teams across the NFL need to get their first win, including some teams we did not think would be 0-2, including the Kansas City Chiefs. But no matter where your team's at right now, 15 games to go. There is time to recover. There is time to recoup. We don't know what anybody really is. We're celebrating what's already happened because it's fun. It's the NFL. It's entertaining. And it's something to just sit there and absorb every single week and be surprised by and be shocked by. Man, enjoy it like we do every single week. We'll be back next week to recap it again, to make fun of some people, to feel vindicated, and probably be wrong about a couple things too. But enjoy week 3 of the NFL season and all the nerves that will come with it, especially if you like the Rams. We will see you next week on Sportsify.